right, I think we're good. I think that should be more than tall enough to see everybody, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can see the ceiling in it.
Yeah, God, I love this freaking camera.
That'll be good.
So yeah, we're live. Hey,
Is it going?
Yeah, it's going right now. Nice. We already got comment. We're already getting comments too. Tell everybody too. More people can watch, the more people that subscribe, because that's what it was telling me. I think like max I'll be able to get to like I don't know how many. Probably more than we'll get, but it said we had 40 people watching. Now I only got 15 watching. Yeah, viewer. Now, right? Okay, yeah, viewer limit. Get more subscribers and get more viewers.
Are they already at the limit?
Yeah, I think so. It says viewer limit 14.
That's what I was surprised you could stream live on YouTube.
Yeah, well, tell everybody. I got 16 now. Tell everybody to keep. Tell everybody go on your little thing and tell everybody to subscribe, and I think they'll be okay to be able to watch it.
On there too.
Well, anybody that's watching should be able to hear me. Any of your friends that are wanting to watch this, I think they need to subscribe to the channel. I don't have a lot of subscribers, and I'm trying to do this. Doc Gail, can you hear me? Okay, cool. Yeah, make sure you're telling everybody to subscribe so they can watch the live stream. I think that's the only way it's going to work. So, nice. Thanks, Christine. All right, come on.
Make sure those words
room for dinner, and we have many new attendees who are coming for the forum. So thank you all for being here. As we said before, this is our sixth candidate forum in those last few years, and this year the Coastal Bend, the Republican coalition, has been joined by STAR, the Election Integrity Group, and many good people who are well represented here tonight to make sure that this evening will be a success. I want to thank all our attendees here. This forum is for you. This is because you are interested in the political life that we are here tonight, and we need you to do the right thing. So our weekly wine and dine with the Republicans are restarting tomorrow. We will have 3 forums in the coming weeks for the local candidates, so we hope you will all join us. We have one for the judges, we have one for the constable, and then we have one for the state senate. So it's going to be very interesting, so join us at the Texas Mesquite Barbecue and Grill every Thursday night at 6 o'clock. So what I wanted to tell you is tonight it's a Republican candidate forum. We did not, as you know, we can imagine, invite the Democrats. We are here because we want to get to know our candidates. We want to know which one has the best chance of winning, and we want to understand why most of the local grassroots throughout Texas have 2 mottos right now. One is Fire Abbott. The other, the other one is Anybody But Abbott. Thank you for those applauses. I think those 2 tell very well what we think. So now it is your responsibility to each of you to make your choice, getting to know your candidate, and choose the one you think can win. As we know, what counts right now is to get to a runoff. So once we have a runoff, we know that all the good candidates will endorse each other. Whoever comes second will get the support of the others, and what we need is a change, a real change. So thank you all for being here, and have a great evening.
Thank you, Susan. At this time, I'm going to bring up Carmen Calderon, who will describe to you a little bit about the day everyone's involved.
Okay. If all the candidates could come up, I'm going to go over how we're going to do this forum/debate, and then Jean's going to have them pick numbers again for speaking order. So we're going to draw for speaking order, then we're going to alternate on the questions. Each candidate's going to get 3 minutes for opening statements. Then we're going to try to do, 5 to 6 questions depending on time, with 2-minute responses each. A little thing we added, each candidate is going to get 2 bonus time cards. If they want to jump in or add time to their response, they can use their card and they'll get an extra 30 seconds. If they hear something another candidate says and they want to respond to it, they can turn in their card and get another 30 seconds after that candidate speaks. And then we'll have closing statements. We got a timer up here, our brother Dominic. He's going to let them know when their time's running out with the yellow card, which means 30 seconds left. Red card means wrap it up. We need to move on. So, thank you.
Alright. And number 1, can you take your seat, please? Okay, thank you. Number 2, and number 3. And we'll leave each of you will get to start. You just have to have a number. The first person will go to the first. The second person will go to the second. You will reverse statement first there. And I'm not going to lie. Okay, that's a deal. Thank you.
Mr. Hoffman?
Hello, Patriots again. I'm Don Huffiness, of course. I'm a fifth-generation Texan, born in Dallas. Patriots, what are we here tonight for?
Change.
We're here, though, to discern what is the best candidate. That's why we're really here. Let me just give you a little bit more of my background. I beat the most liberal incumbent, a liberal senator in Austin, Texas, in 2014. I was in the Texas Senate from 2018. I know what it's like to be an underdog. Nobody thought I could beat him. It had never been done in Texas history. He outspent me 3-1, but I still beat him. I know what it's like to win. I'm in this race to win. There's a path to victory, and I'm on it. Patriots, I don't need a new job. I don't need a new career. I'm doing this to solve the problems that affect Texas. I don't think I'm any different than you. You're tired of the lies. You're tired of the broken and empty promises. Is the border secure? No. Are your property taxes going down? No. Do you have confidence your votes aren't being stolen? No. Are we winning the culture war? No. I keep all the way down the list. I'm the only person ever to run for the governor of Texas that's got comprehensive plans to solve those issues. We're going to go over that here in a minute. But you know why people don't give you details of their plans and how they're going to solve something? Because they don't want to be accountable. All the Republicans are going to run, not the guys up here on the stage. It's an honor to be with these two gentlemen up here. But most people run for office and they're Republicans. They say, oh, well, I'm for less government. Oh, I'm for less taxes. Oh, I'm for the military. They don't tell you what they're going to get done because they don't want to be accountable. I want to be accountable. My biggest battle in Austin, Texas, when I was down there in that swamp, and I got a PhD in it, it's every bit as deep as the one in Washington, was with the Republicans. It was with the rhinos. It was not with the Democrats. Have you ever met a Republican that didn't say he was conservative? No. They all say that. And 90% of them are liars. They forget the fundamental role of government is always to defend your God-given liberties. Your liberties come from God and not the government. I haven't forgot that. A true patriot always questions government. A true patriot never blindly follows government. Patriots, it's not going to just be a new chapter in Texas history and Huffiness administration. It's going to be a new book. I'm going to prove what it means for Texas to be sovereign to the whole world. Thank you.
Once again, it's a pleasure and honor to be here to each and every one of you. And I think that this is kind of like they say in the book of Esther, for a time such as this. Because I think right now that what Texas is looking for is not another litigator, not another lawyer, not someone who's going to, sit around and try to compromise, appease, negotiate, and acquiesce. Not a person that's going to write letters and things of that nature. They're looking for decisive leadership. And that's what I've always tried to do in my 22 years in the United States Army. And then also, I was elected to the United States House of Representatives. And it's very interesting. After one term in the United States House of Representatives, my own party, the Republican Party, decided to redistrict me out of that district that I was so honored to represent in Florida. And then furthermore, you're looking at the person in 2012 was the #1 target for the Democrat Party in the United States of America. So why is it that the Republican Party and the Democrat Party would not want to see someone that had never been in politics before not return back to be a representative in the United States House of Representatives? Because I believe in the oath that I took to the Constitution. I did not take an oath to the political party. I did not take an oath to an individual. And as the chairman of the Republican Party in Texas, when was the last time you have heard of a chairman that was silent for a lawsuit against a sitting governor? But yet that's what I did. Because the governor of the state of Texas, after 30 days, even in an emergency, you're supposed to bring the legislature back in and make any further decisions. You cannot see yourself as a constitutional monarch. We're supposed to live in a constitutional republic. And therefore, when you unilaterally decide that you're going to change election law from 2 weeks to 3 weeks, I got to call you out on it. When you're going to unilaterally decide that $290 million of Texas taxpayer money is going to go to a MTX corporation, no bid contract, to do contact tracing on you, I've got to call you out. When you're the Speaker of the House, a Texas State House that you worked hard to make sure we had an 83 to 67 majority of, but yet the Speaker of the House decides that he's going to have Democrats help him become the Speaker. And also put 15 Democrats in charge of committee chairmanship position in the Texas State House. I called them out. I said, you're a political traitor. Did not endear me with Speaker Dave Phelan, and I really don't care because I did not take an oath to him. When the Lieutenant Governor stands up and says, constitutional carry does not have a chance of passing, I said, I'm sorry, Lieutenant Governor. The people in Texas have this as one of their legislative priorities, along with those other non-legislative priorities, and we're going to get it passed. And so now, finally, Texas becomes the 21st state in the United States of America to have constitutional carry. That's what we want to have. Someone that is not thinking about the political establishment or the political elites. They're thinking about one single thing, serving you. That's what I seek to continue to do as your governor. Thank you.
Once again, thank you for being here tonight. It's humbling to have the opportunity to come in and speak. It's also an honor for me to not only pursue this esteemed office, but to run alongside these gentlemen on this stage with me. I'm running against Abbott. There's no question about that, but it is a pleasure to run alongside these gentlemen. Amen. Some of you don't know who I am. A lot of times I get introduced as a TV personality or a media personality or a humorist. Some people even introduce me as an internet sensation, which is a 21st century way of saying I'm unemployed, but I'm popular. My name is Chad Prather. I am a white, heterosexual Christian male that's a conservative. I drive a diesel truck that burns up the ozone layer. And usually there's a flashlight dog in the back that helps along for that mission. I'm not a politician. I don't want to be a politician. In July of 2020, I was in South Dakota, sitting across the table from Donald Trump Jr. I was drinking a glass of wine, and my phone went off, telling me that the governor of Texas was passing more mandates and deeming certain businesses and individuals non-essential. And I don't know if it's because I was drinking a wine or sitting with a Trump, but I took to Twitter. And I said in that moment that I was going to run for governor in 2022 to primary Greg Abbott. I was the first one to make that announcement. That was some 18 months ago, and let me tell you, it's been like taking a sip from a fire hydrant. It's been the worst, best experience of my life. But I believe in the state of Texas. I believe that the spirit of Texas is alive and well. I believe that you have it, if you possess it, you've seen it, you want to give it away. The spirit of Texas is caught. It's not taught. You either get it or you don't get it. Once you catch it, I think it's more contagious than COVID. You want to give it away. But the spirit of Texas is in jeopardy because Texas is not the Texas that most Texans think it is anymore. We know about the border. We know about property taxes. We know about the energy grid. We have water crisis that nobody's talking about. So many various things. But the biggest thing is this overreach of government. You woke up September 1st with 666 new laws in your life. No one went to bed on August 30th hoping there were going to be 600 some odd new laws. But we understand that government has gotten too big and we're under tyranny. We see big government tyranny both on the federal government part as well as the state government. We know medical tyranny, corporate tyranny, judicial tyranny, educational tyranny. It's time to change that. I want you to be the person that makes that change. Walt Mason said 100 years ago, there's a man in this world who's never turned down wherever he chances to stray. He gets a glad hand in a populous town, and out where farmers make hay. Greeted with pleasure in deserts of sand and deep of the aisle of the woods, wherever he goes is a welcoming hand. He's a man who delivers the goods. And folks, I believe that the spirit of Texas is alive in you, and you'll be men and women that deliver the goods and send that message to Austin. Thank you.
That better? All right, I'll try not to talk too loud. All right. All right, Alan Mask will answer the first question, and I'll come up to answer. The first question is, there have been many attempts to mandating masks and vaccines, everything from local, state, and federal governments to private businesses and employers. How do you, and please be specific, each of you, plan to protect Texas from mask and vaccine mandates?
Well, the very first thing you have to understand is you need to go back and have a little lesson in civics. Maybe some of y'all remember Schoolhouse Rock on Saturday mornings at ABC. They taught us how legislation became a law. Edicts, orders, mandates, and decrees are not law. But the fact is, we have forgotten that lesson in civics, and so therefore we believe that it is law. Law is created in the House of Representatives, your elected representatives, the Senate, your elected representatives. They debate on it, they refine it, and then when it's passed in those two respective bodies, it's sent to a government. We don't live in a constitutional monarchy. This is not the Ten Commandments with Yul Brynner sitting up there as Pharaoh Ramses saying, so let it be written, so let it be done. But if you don't understand the nature of who we are in Texas, first a republic, the nature of who we are in America, the longest running constitutional republic that the world has ever known, and what the rule of law means, and the respective duties and responsibilities of the executive branch, legislative branch, and judicial branch, we've got completely off kilter. And so you're not going to see me making mandates, edicts, and orders and decrees. But the sad thing is that this governor here opened up Pandora's box when he started issuing out edicts and mandates. When he started to say, I will make the decision about who and what is essential. To shut down churches, but yet Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, liquor stores, they can stay open. If you stick with the rule of law, if you stick with understanding the three branches of government, the separations of power, the co-equal branches, and the checks and balances, then we get back to making sure we live in the Texas Republic, and that is what I want to defend, and that's how I will govern, not rule.
Once you give up your liberty, once you relinquish your freedom, it takes a fight to get it back. Now we know through these mandates and shutdowns, the deeming of people being non-essential and their businesses being closed down, that's not liberty, that's not freedom. The executive orders that Greg Abbott had written in order to, quote, protect you from these mandates are not worth the paper they were written on. Greg Abbott has still failed to call another legislative session because we have to pass this into law. Yes, Texas is an outlaw state. They can fire you for wearing the wrong color shoes. But I understand that borders are important to you, aren't they? But how much more precious is the border of your human body? The sacredness of your body. And they're saying they want to violate that with a medical procedure so that you can go to work. We have to pass legislation, but not just legislation that says it's illegal in the state of Texas. We must become truly a constitutional sanctuary state. If it doesn't fit in that constitutional box, and it doesn't fly with the Constitution, it's not fit to do business on the soil of Texas. There you go. There's numerous things that we can do. We can pass legislation that penalizes these global companies, such as United Airlines, American Airlines. Make sure that whatever they sell, they tell their people that they're going to be put on a leave of absence for 2 weeks until they get a vaccine without pay. Then we're going to penalize those companies for penalizing those people. It's medical rape, and we're not going to tolerate it in the state of Texas. I've read a lot of things on COVID. I don't understand any of it, neither do the scientists or the doctors. But I have read the Constitution. And the Constitution was not written to keep you safe, and the Constitution was not written to keep you healthy. The Constitution was written to keep you free. There's no way, more than the state of Texas, do we need to be demonstrating that level of freedom.
Thank you.
The answer to the question is, what would I do as governor to stop the vaccine mandates, the mask mandates? And I can tell you I will use every tool in the toolbox the governor has. And I know most of them. I'm the only person that's ever running for governor that was actually in that swamp in the legislature. And it's a snake pit. It really is. It really would be difficult to know how to manipulate the system if you hadn't been there. And there's really two ways, of course, legislation and the budget. Legislation and the budget. And the governor gets last call on every single bill that leaves there. That's incredible leverage. incredible leverage because I know what it's like to be in the club and what all these elitists down there that want to do. What do they want to get done more than anything? To move up into the club, in the food chain, is to get a bill done. That's what they want. Well, guess what? I get last call on every bit of that. I don't care if I veto 700 bills. They're not going to get any bill done until they get my bill done to make sure that no one is forced to take a vaccine they don't want to take for any reason. Look, I don't care if you want that vaccine, you want to take it 50 times, you can take it. I've never taken it and I never will take it. Neither has anyone in my family. I don't care if you want to walk around in a spacesuit. And I'm never going to let anyone be forced to wear a mask. And particularly your children. This is your medical liberty. This is your medical freedom. This is as important as any part of our liberty that we've lost. And Abbott was the cause of all this.
Thank you. Okay. And Catherine will be next. The next question is submitted by Sean Flanagan of our integrity group here. There was progress made on election integrity this past legislative session, but there are still many issues with our elections that need to be resolved. What issues do you think still need to be addressed to protect Texas elections? And as the governor, what are you willing to do?
How many of you feel like your elections are secure? Okay, so we haven't really made progress, have we? So we're kind of starting from scratch. And I encourage people everywhere I go to go vote. You need to overwhelm the ballot box. They're operating algorithms and they can only turn the knob up so high. So show up and vote. And don't forget early voting starts February 14th and primary day is March 1st. I don't want to assume anything. As governor, one of the things that I've consistently suggested is that we need, of course, a Secretary of State who believes in election integrity. We're willing to dump the voter rolls. Make every person in Texas now where they have to go re-register to vote. We make sure that there are no computers in the polling place. And that includes voting machines. There are no cell phones, there's no Wi-Fi, there's no plugged-in internet. We make sure that there are 24/7 cameras that are in those polling places, and people who are there objectivize, making sure that ballots are counted, no boxes are pulled out from underneath the table, and no cars are coming in, taking things out of the trunk or out of the back of the truck at midnight. We've got to make sure that the eyeballs and the cameras are there, surveillance is there, and we don't have a voting season, we have an election day. We have a voting day. Of course, we all agree that there needs to be IDs that determine whether or not a person is a citizen and is a legal resident of Texas, and they are legal to vote. And if anyone is caught meddling in elections, tampering in one of the most precious privileges we have as Americans, and certainly as Texans, it becomes a felony. And not a misdemeanor as it stands now. It's a precious right and privilege. We've got to protect it.
Having confidence in our elections is the foundation of our constitutional republic. When we don't have that confidence and the foundation breaks, all heck's going to break loose. It's one of the significant causes of a civil war. We're going to get confidence in our elections. The Huffiness administration. I'm creating a law enforcement division out of the Department of Public Safety. We're going to move a lot of those officers into it. We're going to move some Texas Rangers into it. I'm familiar with it. When I uncovered that political corruption scandal, I used the Rangers when we got those people put in jail. They're very competent. They're very good. It's called Government Corruption Election Integrity Division. And that's all they're going to work on. They're not going to work on dope, murder, or anything else. They're going to follow the ballots. They're going to know where the machines are. They're going to be in between the two parties because we know people cheat. People have cheated in elections since there's ever been an election. And I think both parties probably cheat. They're going to know where, they're going to be in the Central County Division. There'll be up to 500 officers in this. Everyone's going to get one in each county. They're going to know all about the software. I'm going to try to make sure we get all paper ballots in every county. Numbered paper ballots. I'm calling and have been calling for forensic audit. I'm a businessman. I love forensic audits, especially third-party forensic audits. I know we had a lot of problems in Dallas County. We're going to get a new court system with my program. New judges, new prosecution. We're going to move venue out of the counties where these violations occur. You're never going to convict a Democrat in Dallas County for cheating, a Republican or in Harris or in these other counties, because the DAs are Democrats, the judges are Democrats, the juries are Democrats. The key here is enforcing immigration law, enforcing election law and putting people in jail. This division will give you somebody to call. Who are you going to call? When you think people are cheating, when you think your county commissioners are corrupt and your school board's corrupt and they're stealing money, and believe me, there's a lot of them that are, this is going to give you somebody to call.
Thank you, Don.
You know, people like my dear friend Doug and I deployed to other countries to make sure that they can have free and fair elections in Iraq and Afghanistan. What we see happening here in our own country is absolutely appalling. It is disrespectful and it's disgusting. The most important thing we have to do, we have to hold people accountable. There has to be consequences, exactly what has been said here. All we need to do is uphold the laws that we have on the books. But when you have a governor that decides he's going to extend early voting from 2 weeks to 3 weeks, that's against the law. Because only the legislature is supposed to amend law. When you look at what happened in Harris County, with the county clerk there, Chris Collins, who decided that he was going to try to mail out 2.7 million unsolicited ballots. When he decided there was going to be 24-hour voting. And, you know, those of y'all here in Texas, two things should be 24 hours, Whataburger and Waffle House. Other than that, you should not be in the voting 24 hours. And then also, when we tried to implement this thing called curbside voting, Texas election law is very specific about what curbside voting is. Yet he opened up 9 curbside voting locations, all in Democrat precincts in Harris County. And where's Chris Hollins today? Chris Hollins is still walking around free. Nothing is happening to him. And so the thing is that we just need to uphold the laws that we have. We need to be tough. Republicans have to stop bringing a plastic spoon to a gunfight when it talks about election integrity and voter integrity. The fact that our own government signed a law, SB 1, that said voter fraud will no longer be a felony, it'll be a misdemeanor. And when it was brought to their attention, it was the Speaker of the House that said, we're not going to re-legislate this issue. When you look at what the Texas Criminal Court of Appeals just said, they just said the Attorney General can no longer prosecute cases of voter fraud in the state of Texas. That would be pushed down to the respective county DAs. And as Don Huffiness, Senator Huffiness has said, look at Dallas County, look at Harris County, look at Bexar County, look at Travis County, look at your county. Who's your district attorney? And so we need to go back again to the rule of law to make sure that we are doing things in the right way, and we have to protect the ballot. Thank you.
Okay, John, you're up next. The question is about property taxes. All of you have previously said that you want to reduce or eliminate property taxes in Texas. How do we know that this is not just political rhetoric? Like we have heard from other Republicans in the past, what exactly will you do to achieve and eliminate property taxes?
This is a key plank of my platform. This really is my #1 legislative agenda. I know Texans are tired of renting their property from the government. When you go home tonight or you're traveling around tomorrow, look out the window as you're driving. Everything you see is owned by the government. They own all of it. Your business, your land, your ranch, your farm, your house. All you do is rent it from them. You don't even know what the rent's going to be. It just keeps going up and up. And if you think it's bad right now, you can just give it 3 more years with double-digit inflation and see what you're going to get. It's going to be unimaginable. This is a terrible way to fund government. I've been working on it for years. I've been working at Texas Public Policy Foundation in Austin, Texas. They got a lot of numbers. We've got 6 inches thick of spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheets. This is a math problem. This is not political rhetoric. I've got a lot of things I can be doing in my life. I'm running for governor specifically to solve the problems that affect Texas. And this is the main one. This is about your economic liberty. And I tell you what we're going to do. It's going to take 8 to 10 years. Let's just call it 10 years. To gradually put it on a glide path to zero, to phase it out. To phase it out. What we're going to replace it with is the state revenue, unspent state revenues. If we spend all of our money, we can't buy down property tax. We're going to cut state spending. We're going to use those unfunded state revenues that come in to buy down property tax. That's about $8 billion a year. We're going to have a constitutional amendment on it so you can vote on it. That's critical that you get to weigh in on this and vote on it. We're going to move a lot of it over to consumption tax, sales tax. We're never going to have an income tax. We're going to keep local governments fully funded. And I know that doesn't sound possible, but let me just give you some examples. Let me give you examples. If you're bringing in $10 million right now in property tax, next year that government's only going to bring in $9 million, and $1 million's coming from the state of Texas. Then next year, $8, $2 million in the state of Texas. The state of Texas has got a lot of revenue buckets. We've got hotel, motel tax, oil and gas tax, sales tax. And we got all kinds of revenues, and all those revenues are growing up at double digits. We're taking that revenue, and we're going to buy down property tax with it. We're gradually going to move it over to sales tax. So we're not changing the funding formulas for the school districts. We're not changing how much money local political subdivisions receive. You're going to still keep them whole. This is very doable. It's not political rhetoric, and it's time that Texans experience economic liberty to own their own property.
Chad Prather just brought up a very critical point. Since 2015, we've seen a 19% increase in spending down in the state government of Texas. That's one of the things we have to do. I had the pleasure and honor of sitting on the Texas Sunset Advisory Commission back in 2016. Every cycle after a legislative cycle, we have a group that comes together and look at ineffectiveness and inefficiency in the Texas state government, and they make recommendations for the following legislative session to make sure that we sunset some of these agencies and bureaucracies. And you can just guess how many of these agencies and bureaucracies actually do get sunset. That's what we have to do. We have got to put the Texas state government back in its constitutional box, their right duties and responsibilities. That's called fiscal conservatism. The other thing that we need to do is move away from what is called a baseline budget system to a zero-based budget system. A baseline budget system means that every single budget cycle, they start from the previous budget cycle's spending, and they increase off of there. And when you think about our property taxes here, we have the 6th highest property taxes in the United States of America, and it's really based upon the economic philosophies of Karl Marx. This is a progressive tax system. And the second thing, Karl Marx believed in ending private property rights and ownership. You can never own your home here. You can pay off your land, pay off your mortgage, it can't happen. And so we have got to make sure that we find those savings. One of the other big savings, if we do what is right with the board, then we stop sending taxpayer-funded benefits to the people here illegally. That's $6 to $8 billion. That money can go back to us. And concurrently with all of this, in the 88th legislative session in 2023, this is what we will do. Prior to 1917, when we created the personal income tax in the United States of America, the income tax was supposed to be at 2%, supposed to be temporary. Prior to 1917, we did taxation based upon consumption. It was based upon what you went out and purchased, not based upon your income, should not be based upon your property. John Locke said that your natural rights are life, liberty, and property. We're not going to tax you on your property in Texas.
So I drove 7 hours to be here today. That's a lot of road. Not a single mile was smooth. But yet we're ranked 6th in the nation in terms of property tax. Spending has gone up 19%, while our growth has grown by 5.4%. We have an untenable future in terms of our spending. We haven't had a state property tax in the state of Texas since 1982, so it's controlled on the local level. But what is the local level doing? They're learning from those at the top. They're seeing the irresponsible spending, the irresponsible behavior on the part of people in Austin who do not understand the value of a dollar. And so the problem is no one in America, much less Texas, owns their own home, owns their own land, and it's immoral. It's immoral, and we keep putting immoral people in a place to control our lives and control what we value, and that's our home. Our founding fathers were rolling over in their graves over this issue. Even in the Old Testament, God told the Israelites, I will not tax your land because it's an inheritance, it's a promise to your children and your children's children. Everywhere I go, I remind people if Israelites 6,000 years ago could figure out a way to get around property taxes, then surely the most fiscal conservative economic minds in Texas in the 21st century should be able to figure out a plan. So yes, take the surplus, bite on the property taxes, add to the sales tax 1.5 points, add to the gas tax 0.5%. Yes, add a consumption tax. We migrate into that, but we treat it like a surgeon that is dealing with a tumor that has grown malignantly into a vital organ. Because that's what property taxes has become in the state. Can it be done? Yes. We've got to turn some things over to the private sector. What can make those roads smooth? Believe it or not, there are people out there smart enough to get the job done without us relying on the mediocrity of government work. Would you agree? Yeah. We can eliminate this. It's going to take change, and we can do it.
Thank you. Okay, Colonel West will be next. And the next question is about education. This question was submitted by L.J. Francis, who's a candidate for our State Board of Education. Who's here today? Put your hand up, L.J. Thank you. Educators are dropping out of profession due to the increased demands of state regulations that we may see as a political rather than professional. How would you address these concerns and solve these problems?
I think first and foremost, we've got to get back to teaching our kids to be critical thinkers. We've got to make sure that we are educating our children, not indoctrinating our children. And the most important thing is that the philosophy of the progressive socialist left was on display in Virginia. That debate when Lt Col stepped up there and said that parents do not have a right to decide what their children are being taught. That cannot be the mantra here in Texas. And so when you talk about school choice, I'm a product of school choice. My parents in Atlanta, Georgia made the decision to not send me to the 2 public schools in our community. They sent me to Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic School, a black Catholic school right across the street from Ebenezer Baptist Church. It was not just the education that I got in there, it was the education I got walking every day past Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s final residence file. And so what we have to look at, first and foremost, is cultural Marxism, the social emotional learning. Texas is 46, 47 out of 50 in education. We need to get back to the basics, to reading, writing, arithmetic. We need to get back to history. We need to get back to civics. I don't think we need to get back to teaching our kids how to write in cursive. My mother made sure I learned how to write in cursive before I was in first grade. It's about discipline. It's about understanding precision. And it's about understanding the adherence to standards. And so those are some of the things. And we have got to, once again, look at the fact that we cannot allow the leftists to come in and take over our school districts. And I will tell you, as governor of Texas, there's an independent school district out there that wants to teach little white kids that they're an oppressor and that they're evil, and they want to teach little black kids that they're oppressed and they're victims. They're not going to get Texas taxpayer dollars. If you want to teach toxic masculinity at a college and university in Texas or this other left, you're not going to get Texas taxpayer dollars. And furthermore, we're not going to put progressive socialists on our boards and regents so that they can make sure that we're creating the next generation of little socialists and Marxists. So we've got to get back to the basics of education. And I tell you, I will get school choice passed here. Thank you.
He's right, I can't remember how to do a Z in cursive. But we got to burn it to the ground. We got to burn it to the ground. We don't have public education in Texas, we have public schools. We're not educating our children are not operating with any complexity of thought, they don't have critical thinking skills, they're being taught gender, pronouns, identification, things, sexuality, they're doing things that the teachers are doing things that the parents should be doing, but we've got to return the authority, ultimate authority, back to the parents and to the home. In 1917, the Bolsheviks took over in Russia. They took the kids out of the home. They put them in orphanages in order to indoctrinate them to become good communists, join the KGB, become interrogators and executioners. Right now, we have children that are turning their parents in of right-wing ideologies because they're in a system of schooling which is built on a humanistic Dewey man system that churns out Marxists and socialists. They're being brainwashed. They're being institutionalized to a point of sending them to a wacky, lunatic, leftist, progressive place called a college campus where their brains are further controlled by a wild-eyed, tenured professor who's done nothing more than push papers around for 30 years in his academic bubble and never tested his theories in the real world. And they're graduating after 4 or 5 years deeply in debt with a degree in undecided. Yeah. It's time that we teach our kids, once again, who they are, where they come from, their history, knowing why they are. I believe that before you graduate high school in the state of Texas, you should be able to pass the citizenship exam. Yeah. Right now, we have teachers that are doing nothing more than training for a test. The STAR test needs to go away. Standardized evaluation to make sure that we get more federal government funding. Well, the federal government funding is not educating our kids. We got to make sure that we have school choice that does not reach into the homeschooling system. You have the right to do that, as well as co-ops, private school. The money should follow the child. But folks, let me tell you something. This SEL and the CRT and all of the nonsense, the pornography and everything that's been poured into our children's mind is an agenda to control them for the future, and we've got to make that stop.
I'm a businessman, and I know that the best way to improve something, of course, is to have competition. Competition always lowers the price and increases the quality of everything. And it's particularly going to do that with a government monopoly, our school system. When I was in the legislature, for 2 sessions, I championed school choice. There was not a bigger champion of education freedom than I was, and I am. I'm the one that wrote the bill for education savings accounts. I spent a lot of time on it. These are accounts that follow the student. It's basically a program where the money always follows the student. Now, we homeschooled our children. I have 5, 4 boys and a girl. And that's not always available for everyone, and I understand that. But the point is, it's your money, and you need to use that money any way you seem fit. I want 100 flavors of education. I want your parents are in charge of the education. You might have saw me on Tucker last night talking about this very issue. This is a war. This is a culture war we're in. This is a war for the soul of Texas, the soul of America. And we're losing it because we've lost the universities. Decades ago, when the socialists took over the universities, the Board of Regents is appointed by the governor. It's one of the most important powers of the governor is the power of appointments. The governor makes hundreds, if not thousands, of appointments to everything you can imagine, the medical board and everything else, but particularly education. This is very important. And they've learned that the teachers are being trained in the universities, and they're spreading that poison all the way down to the elementary levels. We've got pornography in our libraries. We've got CRT being taught Marxist philosophy. We've got drag queen story hours. We have lost our culture. And it's the foundation. I'm going to get prayer back in every classroom of Texas. I'm going to get biblical studies back to the junior highs. And I'm going to flush all the communists and socialists out of our universities.
Okay, the next question is Catherine. And this has to do with the oil and gas industry and our economy here in Texas. This topic was submitted by Carolyn Vaughn, who is a candidate as state representative. The economy, especially in South Texas, has taken a huge hit because of COVID and the Biden administration's policies. What is your plan to bring back the oil and gas industry and help rebuild the economy in Texas?
And let's clarify exactly what that is when we talk about the Biden administration. This is when we're starting to make ideologies into policies. Now, Texas is a wealthy state. The problem is we start apologizing for the things that have made us wealthy. Not the least of which is the fact that we are a global leader when it comes to energy. Oil and gas is quite literally our bread and butter here in this state. Oil and gas has made us very wealthy. But yet we know that the globalists and the climate science cultists are wanting to take that away. We produce 40% of the nation's oil, 26% of the nation's marketable natural gas. We are the #2 producer of lignite coal in the nation. We don't have great coal, but it burns. And it would have been handy last February whenever we couldn't get any heat in the house. Now, they said to me on social media last year, you poor Texans didn't like it, you couldn't handle a little cold outside. I said, it's not that it was cold outside, it's cold inside. People were dying in their homes. It would have been nice if those coal plants had been turned on. We could have just made our homes toasty. But we've got to stop apologizing profusely for those things that have made us great, those sources of energy. You want to have green energy, but make sure that those companies stand on their own. We've got to stop subsidizing them and bailing them out of your taxpayers. So we're going to fuel, to use a pun, we're going to fuel the oil and gas industry. We're going to stop apologizing. for that which makes us great. You dance with the one that brought you. And God knows, by His divine grace, we sit on top of more fossil fuels than any other place on the globe. The Biden administration shut down the pipelines within days of taking office. I still don't call it president. And what? Told OPEC to increase production. That doesn't make any sense. That's a clown show, folks. It's time for Texas to take the rightful place as a global leader once again in energy, oil, and gas, and let's stop apologizing for it.
Well, hopefully the price will go up to about 120 a barrel. Make it go more than that. That'd be great. With inflation, we might. I don't cure a lot of ills in the industry, I'll tell you that. But just one thing the state of Texas can do specifically is restructure the land fund. The land where all the oil and gas, a lot of the trapped oil and gas are, we handle that, the state handles that. It's a very efficient program when you bid on it, and then it's really hard to get a lease going and get a working interest done. So the state of Texas can immediately look at fixing all that as the governor. Everything's downstream of the governor, of course. Just about everything in our state, our culture, our legislation, our virtues, and everything else. The other thing is that the state of Texas generally enforces most of the federal mandates. The federal government doesn't come down here to generally enforce the EPA laws. They rely on the state of Texas to do that. The Clean Waters Act, they rely on the state of Texas to do that enforcement. Well, guess what? Maybe we just don't return their phone call after a while. Maybe we just ignore what they want. Maybe we decide what's best for the state of Texas, what's best for our oil and gas industry. We are the energy capital of the world. Every energy company in the world relocates to Houston, Texas. This is who we are. This is the backbone of our economy, the fossil fuels. But what did Abbott do? He went around and subsidized all the wind farms and all the green energy because they wanted to be the cool person out there. And what a disaster. He can't even keep the lights on. Of course, stop all the subsidies for the renewables. And let's get back to the basic fundamentals to keep the lights on and use our fossil fuels that we've been blessed with.
Thank you, Mr.
There are three pillars to security. There's economic security, there's energy security, and there's national security. When you think about your energy security tied to your economic and your national security, the reason why the United States of America was energy independent because of Texas. They unleashed our power of our oil and gas industry. And first and foremost, we need to understand that no person has the enumerated power or the right to say by executive order that they're going to shut down a private sector industry. And so when Joe Biden steps up there and says that I hereby declare that I'm going to shut down oil and gas industry, I just get on the phone and say, maybe you can do that to some other state, but you're not going to do that here in the state of Texas. We're going to continue to produce, we're going to consume, and we're going to export our energy resources. Earlier today, I was up in Beaumont. Right up there in Beaumont is Port Arthur. Port Arthur is the #1 exporter of liquefied natural gas in the United States of America. And so we need to make sure, we need to make sure that we are expanding that. And when you look at what is happening in Ukraine, it is not so much about we need to send 8,500 troops. We need to send our oil and gas resources over to all those countries in Eastern Europe and undermine what Vladimir Putin is doing with his stranglehold. Therefore, to create more jobs for us here in Texas, it is time that we stand up and stop being ruled by this ideological agenda, as Chad just talked about, that they try to turn into policies which is completely unconstitutional. Wind and solar may be nice, but 23 to 26% of our energy distribution plan is far too much. That's a pipe dream. 3 to 6%, that's the sweet spot for them. And we need to get them back into that wheelhouse. And in Chapter 313, subsidies.
We're just going to change the battery real quick here. Thank you.
Hello. Okay. Next question, John, you're up. Border security. This question was brought up by the South Texas Alliance of Republicans. We know a big part of your platforms, all three of you, is to secure the border. What specifically will you do to make sure it is secured? And can you elaborate on your overall immigration policy once the border is secured?
Okay. This has been up on my website since I got in this campaign in May. I'm going to finish the wall for about 350 miles, at least on the Texas border. We're going to spend the $4 billion necessary to get that done. I'm a business guy. This is less than a one-year payback for what we spend on illegal immigration. We have hundreds of thousands of illegals in our schools, healthcare and everything else. We spend about $8 billion. We can afford this wall. Also, the most important thing is to remember on my plan is I'm never asking permission from the federal government to secure the Texas border. This is one main reason this is the most important election in the country and could be the most important election in the history of the United States. The federal government will never secure the border. They never have. They never will. Trump couldn't get it done with the trifecta in Washington. The only chance we have of having a secure border is with a courageous governor of Texas. Amen. That's period. Over and out. I don't need to ask permission because the Constitution, my federal document, clearly gives me the authority to do what I need to do to repel this invasion. Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution. I'm going to engage the entire Texas military. It's not going to be enough. We're going to get other states to help. We think we need 40,000 to 45,000 troops to secure that border. The rules of engagement is real simple. We're not enforcing immigration law. We're stopping an invasion. This is clearly an invasion, a premeditated attack on Texas. I'm going to make sure that we deport every single person immediately back across that river. Patriots, there's 25 bridges over that river. I'm stopping all inbound, or most all inbound commercial traffic from Mexico. This is strategic. I need to make sure Mexico feels the economic pain so they take back their side of the river from the cartels. And they will. They love making money over there. We're bringing in 10,000 trucks a day from Mexico. They're not getting one thing into this country until they take back the river from their side, from the cartels. The most dangerous criminal organizations in the world. Every road that leads to those bridges is a Texas road. You paid for it. We can do whatever we want on those roads. Patriots, this is Texas. We will never bend the knee to the federal government to secure our border.
Article 4, Section 7 of the Texas State Constitution. It lists the duties and responsibilities of the Commander-in-Chief of the Texas Military Department, which is the government. Most important, 2 words: repel invasions. That's not happening. You saw news reports of what just occurred down in Brownsville, Texas, where those buses of illegal immigrants were brought into an undisclosed location. They were obviously given bus tickets and plane tickets, and they were taken over and caught flights. Over the Christmas holiday season, 6 aircraft took off out of Texas with illegal immigrants and landed in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Pennsylvania. They've also done that in Westchester County, New York, Jacksonville, Florida, Nashville, Tennessee. We are not securing that border. And the Constitution, as I said earlier in our pre-dinner remarks, gives us the right to be able to repel those invasions. So this is what we must do. Establish a border control zone. It's very simple. That's something that we know and understand in the military. Highway 90 to the north, Rio Grande River to the south. You've got the respective sectors: El Paso sector, Big Bend sector, Del Rio sector, Laredo sector, Rio Grande Valley sector. You task organize your forces to go into those respective sectors, to be on the major infiltration routes. You make sure they have the proper training, the proper equipment, the right rules of engagement, mission, task, and purpose. They are empowered to arrest, detain, and deport, along with our constitutional law enforcement officers, our sheriffs. That's the first thing that you have to do. We will take control of that border and establish that border control zone. Second thing, you designate the cartels. We're not fighting a business organization. We're fighting a transnational narco-criminal terrorist organization. That will allow us to go after those people. said free trade assets. We don't need to spend any money on continuing on with the border wall. That's an appropriation. That's law. You cannot change it by the executive order. So we're going to find the people that let those contracts. The non-governmental organizations, Catholic charities, Lutheran ministries, we're going to revoke their licenses. They're no longer going to be the remittances of illegal immigrants at 10%. That's going to be for our border security.
I have to tell this crowd that America needs Texas far more than Texas needs America. But unfortunately, in the state of Texas, we've become like the old Motel 6 combo deck commercials. We'll leave a light on for you. The illegals are seeing these incentives and they're coming. We've got to disincentivize the reason they're coming. They're coming for health care, they're coming for welfare, they're coming for education, we're putting them in our college classes, we're giving them things. They're living, you talk about oil and gas, illegals are living in the man camps where our oil and gas workers should be living in Gubernatorial. Right. So we've got to disincentivize the reason they're coming. And yes, where we can build a physical barrier, that would be great. Fortunately, in the state of Texas, we have a lot of geographical barrier that already serves that purpose. But what we need, and by the way, Greg Abbott's not building a wall. I don't care what he said on Tucker Carlson.
That's right.
He got 1.7 miles of private land needed to him to put up some panels so he could look good on television. Read the fine print, folks. What we need is a human wall. We need a human wall not only of our Texas National Guard, our Texas military, our state guard, as well as our DPS, but we need to make sure that civilians, as well as the constitutional word militias, are equipped and enforced and that are being encroached upon, invaded, and trespassed. Folks, there's no such thing as a complex problem that has a politically correct answer. It's going to get ugly, but that's what an invasion looks like. We are being invaded right now, and as Colonel West said, Article 4, Section 7 makes the governor of Texas the commander-in-chief over those forces to make sure that invasion is repelled. Right now, as I said earlier, America does not want Texas to be back on track. That's why when you turn your television on, they're showing the Texas border, not New Mexico, Arizona, or California. They want Texas to fall. They're being brought here on purpose. Detect, deter, detain, deport, defend. But we start with disincentivize. Make it impossible for the cartels and illegals to do business in the state of Texas without financial penalties. And those penalties go into the coffers of the state.
All right, next question, Colonel West will start. This is about taxpayer-funded lobbyists. The local governments use taxpayer money to hire lobbyists. Do you agree with this practice? As governor, would you push to end this practice, and if so, how?
Well, Carmen, you sat on the State Republican Executive Committee, and that was one of our legislative points, was to end taxpayer-funded lobbying. I have no problem with local officials going to Austin and advocating their case, but when they start to pay lobbyist groups to advocate against their very own constituents, that's a problem. And the Republican Party of Texas has said that they want to see that ended. I give you a great case in point. The Texas Association of School Boards is part of the National Association of School Boards, and it was the National Association of School Boards that went to the Department of Justice, Merrick Garland, and said, will you please designate these people showing up at school board meetings as domestic terrorists? Well, the Texas Association of School Board is still part of the National Association of School Board, and the Texas Association of School Board is a taxpayer-funded lobbyist organization. That has to end. Now, there are a lot of these smaller counties or smaller cities that need to have someone that can go and advocate on their behalf. But if they're going to advocate against their taxpayers, advocate against their constituents, I don't agree with that. And that has to end. You should not have your money going toward a group of people that are hired assassins, that are destroying your rights, your freedoms, and your liberties. And as long as that is one of the legislative priorities of the Republican Party of Texas, I will continue to fight to make sure that that is ended. Sadly, I see that it wasn't ended. And how interesting it was that prior to the big freeze that we had, Governor Abbott received an award from a wind energy pact right here in Texas.
Someone asked me recently, what is the one issue that's really not being discussed as much in these campaigns? And I said it was the issue of taxpayer-funded lobbies. Now, when we send somebody to Austin, we send them there as a delegated representative. They don't have the power. You people have the power. They're there to go serve your priorities. To know that they're going there and then they're going to be influenced and manipulated by people who are going to come in with special interests in order to change their mindset from the reason that you sent them there is insidious. We've got to change this. Your money is being used against you. Now, these lobbyists understand that any time there's a campaign season that comes along, part of their job description is that they're going to be campaigned against. They know that both the Democrats and the Republicans, folks on both sides, are all going to talk bad about the lobbyists, but they tell them just, hey, be cool, just chill out, because your job's going to be safe. Because they know you're going to come in there, and you're going to make them real comfortable, and you're going to line their pockets. Folks, as long as we're sending people to Austin, Texas to be delegated representatives with a delegated authority to serve your best interest, we cannot have someone with that special interest in their ear. This is the thing that has got to end. It's got to stop. Or we will continue to have this big government overreach bureaucracy that doesn't represent you and continues to ignore the GOP priorities when the legislative sessions come around. This is the poison that's in the well, and it's time to root it out. These taxpayer-funded lobbyists have to finally go.
This has been a priority of the Republican Party for multiple sessions. This is the document I take with me when I was in Austin. It's my second favorite document next to the U.S. Constitution, our party platform. How many of y'all been to state convention? Excellent. We know what we work on. This party platform. This has been in there for a long time, and everybody asks, what's my agenda? My agenda is always your agenda, the Republican Party agenda, our legislative priorities. That's the first thing we're going to get done. To answer your question, of course I'm going to get that done. It'll be one of my emergency items. I've been a victim of taxpayer-funded lobbying. When I closed that government agency in Dallas, Texas, it was stealing tens of millions of dollars. No one thought it could be done. No one helped me at all. No one. 3,000 employees. I campaigned that I would find government corruption, and I did. And I got rid of them. They were stealing tens of millions, like I said, 3,000 employees. And we didn't merge it like most things. And some said you just merged. No, I sold their furniture off. I sold their computers off. We sold their real estate. They don't exist. They spent $1.4 million of stolen taxpayer money, hiring the best lobbyists they could find to beat my bill to get rid of them. When I tried to audit the tollway authorities down in Austin, a forensic third-party audit, because you know the people got sticky fingers in that business, they lobbied up with about 5 different lobby firms to beat my legislation. And they did. And this is real. Government corruption is real. They take your money and they go down to Austin and screw you with it. And that's what they're going to do. Of course we're going to stop that immediately. It'll be one of my signature items and they get done first thing.
I drove 7 hours. Let's do it.
All right. Yeah. So here we go. Republican Party legislative priorities. The delegates to the Republican Party of Texas State Convention, which are the grassroots of the party, select legislative priorities that they want the Republican elected officials to pass. We have had difficulty with this in the past. If elected, do you plan on making the RPT legislative priorities your own priorities? And if so, how do you ensure that they get passed into law?
Well, first of all, let's go backwards on that. Something that Senator Huffiness alluded to. We know that everything is going to come down the street from the governor. The governor gets done what the governor wants done. Greg Abbott's never got anything done. He's never put his neck on the line for a piece of legislation. Well, one, preschool for all, and I think that was his wife's doing. But he's never put his neck on the line for anything. He didn't want constitutional carry passed. He didn't want the heartbeat bill. He didn't want to deal with these things. He didn't want that to make it to his desk. And by the way, constitutional carry is permitless carry. If that law was passed in 1776, Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr wouldn't be allowed to carry a firearm in Texas because they'd be too young. But that's another story. The people have the power. We, the people. You determine the priorities. You tell those in Austin that represent you, whether it's through the office of the GOP, whether it is the Republican Party, and it is them who determine what those priorities are. It's not for someone to get elected and you confer authority to them to go to Austin and then for them to not represent you. That's exactly what's happening. We've got to make those priorities the priority of the government. The people's priorities have to be heard. They have to be pushed through. And we have to be willing to fight from the top down to make sure that your priorities become a reality in the state of Texas. I want you to have the power. Listen, I go so far as to say consistently that you've got the blueberries and the chili in Texas, right? You got Dallas, Fort Worth, you got Austin, San Antonio, El Paso, Houston. They're very, very blue. They're population centers and they're controlling your future. We need to make sure if there's going to be laws passed in Texas, if there's going to be an amendment to the Texas Constitution, and it's ratified by 3/4 of the counties in the state. That gives you the same say in Nueces County as Dallas. That's important. That's how important those priorities are to me. Let's put the power back in the hands of the people of Texas.
As I just said, I love our party platform right here. As a matter of fact, in 2008, when I was a national delegate, I printed out 2,500 copies of our platform, and I shipped them to Cleveland. And then I paid to have them distributed on every single national delegate's chair. So everyone in the nation, every Republican delegate in the nation could see how great the Texas party platform is. That's how much I like it. That's how much I'm going to fight for it. It's the reason I ran. Right after inauguration in 2015, leadership calls for a meeting of the caucus as a whole. So we all 31 state senators who represent more than in a congressional district. There's only 20 Republicans. We all go to this room. And in comes leadership. They said, welcome, senators, to the most exclusive club in the state of Texas. You're so lucky you're a member of this. There's less than 150 of you still alive. You don't know how lucky you are to be here. Your loyalty always lies with your fellow senators. You will do nothing to hold them accountable. You will do nothing to embarrass your fellow senators. Don't you understand you're so fortunate to be here? And I'm sitting there thinking, I bet I'm the only one in here who's wondering why they call legislators members. They're members of a club, the elitists, the know-it-alls, and they know it. So I would bring this up, and they would laugh about it and make fun of it. Those are a bunch of crazies. They don't know anything what they're talking about. They belittle that, and they belittle you behind closed doors. They don't believe what we believe. Do you know why this isn't law? All of this isn't law. It's because Greg Abbott doesn't believe in it. If Greg Abbott believed in this, and our leadership believed in this, it would be law. And it's not law because they don't believe in it. Let me tell you, in the Huffiness administration, this is my agenda, and it's going to be law.
Last week, Monday, there was an op-ed piece in Newsweek. The title of that op-ed piece was, "Welcome to Florida, courtesy of Ron DeSantis, the new Texas." Because people don't see Texas as the strong constitutional conservative state that we believe it is. Because the bottom line is that, as we saw at the State Republican Executive Committee, we work very hard to get Republicans elected. But the R is starting to mean a little bit less. We need more constitutional conservatives to be elected. People that will stand up and advocate and fight for to get that document passed, the legislative priorities. And that's what I stood up for. We had 8 legislative priorities, and as the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas, I voted before the State Republican Executive Committee to add one more. That was to curtail executive overreach, because we saw that there was a problem. But most of those legislative priorities, executive overreach, taxpayer-funded lobby, school choice, ending child gender modification, protecting our historical monuments and markers here in Texas, didn't get passed. So as governor of the state of Texas, when you give that State of the State address in January 2023 for the 88th legislative session, the Republican Party legislative priorities are the priorities that I will lay down so that they can immediately be worked upon and not pushed back to March the 12th. And those will be the things that we will make sure, not passing legislation about San Marcos becoming the mermaid capital of the world, or Dr. Pepper becoming the official drink of Texas. And furthermore, we've got to look at the lieutenant governor and look at the Speaker of the House and say, your priorities are going right back to these priorities right here. But you also have a part to play as well. The part that you have to play is that any of us up here on this stage can be elected as governor. But if we don't have a supporting cast in the Texas State House and the Texas State Senate, then we're just going to be hamsters. We're going to be working really hard, but we're going to be spinning our wheels. So you need to get out and make sure that we have the supporting cast in the State House and State Senate so we don't have the political traitors like we have currently right now.
I think we're going to move on to closing statements. I think we start with Mr. Huffiness. You get 2 minutes to wrap up. Say whatever you want.
I was the first senator to file constitutional carry in Austin. And I was cussed at and screamed at more than I've ever been in my adult life by Republicans. I've delivered on my campaign promises from 14 and beyond. I said I would root out government corruption. I got 6 people put in jail. I said I would close government agencies, and I did. I said I would be there 100% of the time. I had a 100% voting record. I had the highest attendance in any committee meeting for the 2 sessions I was there. I said I would represent the people. I never took any money from the government, and I never will as your governor. Patriots, I don't need a new job. I'm here to solve the problems that affect Texas. And I've got the courage and to implement those solutions. I've been tested. I've been vetted. That's what we're here for, is to really find out, can you trust somebody to deliver on their campaign promises? Can you trust them to be the conservative champion that they campaign on? Because you know that most candidates are going to campaign one way and they're going to go down and govern a different way. And you know that most of them are liars, not the folks up here. I'm not. Imagine, patriots, a Texas where the border is completely secure. That you don't have to worry about the fentanyl, the sex trafficking, and the human trafficking pouring across that border, that Texans could really get fair wages once and for all. Imagine a Texas where you can own your own home, your own real estate, your own business. Imagine a Texas where you have confidence in the elections. Imagine a Texas where we win the culture war and we get God back in our schools. We give our kids a foundation for the rest of their life that they can lean on. Patriots, there's no cavalry coming over the hill. You're in. This is Texas. We will never bend the knee to no man, to no government, for no reason. I'm going to prove what it means to be sovereign. God bless you and God bless Texas.
It was George Orwell who once said that a nation sleeps peacefully at night because rough men stand ready to do violence on her behalf. The mantra of the West Family is about rough men that stood ready to do violence on behalf of the United States of America. Corporal Herman West Sr., my dad, served in World War II in a segregated army. My mother, Elizabeth Thomas West, served as a civilian for the 6th Marine Corps District Headquarters in Atlanta for over 25 years. My older brother, Herman West Jr., served as a Marine infantryman and was wounded in the Vietnam War at a place called Khe Sanh. At the age of 15, my dad looked at me and challenged me to be the first officer in our family. And on 31 July 1982, I took that oath to become one of those rough men. And now today, Lieutenant Colonel Herman Bernard West III, who already has 3 combat tours of duty, is serving you again, standing to make sure that you can sleep peacefully. But it's not just that. It's my father-in-law, my wife's dad, who served 24 years in the United States Army. 2 tours to Vietnam with the 23rd Division of Air Cav. And he, if I'm correct, is the only Jamaican immigrant that is buried in Arlington National Cemetery. All that I'm saying is I want the opportunity to continue to be that rough man that stands ready to do the violent actions, the principled actions to keep you, your life, your liberty, for property, the pursuit of happiness, safe and secure. I took an oath to the United States Constitution. If you will so honor me, I will take an oath to the Texas State Constitution. God bless you.
I want to say again how thankful I am for you, and I'm thankful for the organizers. Thank you for your hospitality. And I'm thankful for these gentlemen on this stage. There is a weird, unspoken camaraderie, I believe, between the three of us. And I think we've done 9 of these events now.
Are they all gonna be red?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. These guys have a budget. They fly somewhere. We're grassroots, which is political speak to say it, I'm broke. But I'm thankful for this experience. I truly am, because I'm serving with great patriots. And again, I get to see the spirit of Texas in so many of your eyes and in your hearts. But as I said earlier, Texas is not the Texas that most Texans think it is anymore. And there's a way that we can make Texas great. We categorically don't lead in anything right now. Statistically, we're not doing well. We're overspending. We know that we've got a broken border system, and our future is quite untenable. As I said earlier, we've got a matter of 5, 6, 7 years before we really start to look like California. California's gone. It's gone. It's lost. It's no longer the land of Reagan. And we have a great history here. We have a legacy here. We know the names of Bowie and Crockett and Houston and Travis and Austin. We know those great men and those who sacrificed to bring us here. And the grace of God had his divine hand on us. And here we are. But history is still being written. History is being written with your name. But what's it going to say? Will that untenable future become the reality for Texas? Or will we truly embrace liberty once again and, yes, get government out of our lives? Yes. Make the overreach disappear. Make politics boring again. Yes. Oh, yeah. And when you know someone goes to represent you, that's what they do. Yes. Tyranny is alive and well. We've relinquished too many freedoms. They will not give it back without a fight. In 1773, some of our founding fathers went out into Boston Harbor and poured that tea into those black waters as a rebellion and to say we're not taking the tyranny anymore. Well, folks, it's time for all of us to go to Travis County, Texas, and have an Austin Tea Party. Yeah. They say we will no longer tolerate tyranny and the government overreach. Yet this government is true to our great state. God bless you. God bless these men. God bless you.
Thanks for watching, guys. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Have a good evening. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the debate.